I just can't care that my hair is like just not at a good length right now. I just can't care that I look fucking ridiculous. This has been scripted for 2 months and I've just been putting it off. I mean, I just need to get it done. So forgive my hair, forgive my face, forgive me. Hey y'all, I bet you're surprised to see me back at it, but here I am, making episode 8 of how to be a totally functioning adult with a regulated nervous system. And just as a quick reminder, I accidentally cured my anxiety, and I absolutely think you can too. Just to explain the massive lag between these last episodes, I have been pouring myself into this project that I'm really excited about. And sorry, not sorry, I have ADHD. And so you also might notice that the background is a little different. I finally upgraded my setup and I got myself a little mic, so we're taking this whole thing to the next level. Anyway, as the established YouTubers say, let's get into it. Today I want to talk about framing, which is the art of holding something that feels like total shit and finding a different way to see it. Not in a fake, like everything happens for a reason kind of way, but more like, how do I survive this without lying to myself? So there's this Taoist parable about a farmer that I think about every single day. One day, this farmer's horse runs away, and everyone in the town is like, "That's so terrible. I'm sorry to hear that." And the farmer just shrugs and says, "Maybe." And a few days later, the horse comes back and it brings with it some wild horses. And the neighbors are like, "Oh my God, you're so lucky. Congratulations." And the farmer's like, "Maybe." And so then the farmer's son is riding one of those wild horses and he falls and breaks his leg. And the neighbors are like, "Oh no, we're so sorry to hear. How unlucky is that for you?" And the farmer's like, "Maybe." So a week later, the army comes through the village and they are, you know, it's like the draft. They're drafting all of the young men that they can find in the village that are able bodied. And the farmer's son is no longer able bodied because he has a broken leg. So he gets out of the military duty. And the neighbors are like, "Oh my God, you're so lucky." And the farmer says, "Maybe." And that's the end. And the story wrecks me in the best way because it forces me to realize how much meaning making I've been doing my whole life. Because here's the thing, nothing has inherent meaning. I know it feels like some things are just universally good and some things are universally bad, but the fact is that we are the ones adding all the meaning to neutral events. Like, have you ever ended up being grateful for something that in the moment really sucks? Literally, the example that comes to mind is like, I didn't get COVID in 2020. I didn't get it in 2021, 2022. I never got it. I thought I was going to be the only one to just escape completely unscathed. And I was honestly terrified of long COVID symptoms. That's a whole other trauma. But so I went, 3.5 years of everybody around me getting sick, and I was just staying home trying to, not get sick, and it worked for the most part, right? So I finally caught it in August 2023 on the third day that my store was open. The third day my business was open. And obviously I had to stay home for 2 weeks and trust my brand new employees to man the ship. And at the time I was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I stayed inside for 3 years and I never caught it. I'm so pissed." And then August 2023, I get it for the first time. So pissed. But now I say it all the time, how grateful I am that that happened. I'm so glad that happened because it forced me, I didn't have a choice, forced me to be a little bit hands off with my employees. And if I hadn't been forced in that way so early on, I could see myself developing just a totally different management style than the one that I ended up developing. So I'm really grateful for that. I avoided a lot of white knuckles for sure because of that. And the words that we use matter. Like the labels we slap on our experiences, they decide how our bodies and our brains process what's going on. not in like a woo woo manifestation way, although, yes, that, but also in a literal, like physiological, biochemical kind of way, although I'm not even sure that the two are distinct, but for another day. Like, for instance, when I started my business, I was so scared out of my mind. I mean, like in particular, I remember the day that I signed the lease on the storefront, like a 10-year commercial lease with a personal guarantee. No joke. My body was all over the place. My chest was buzzing, my heart was pounding. I thought I was going to throw up. My body was basically convinced that a lion was about to eat me, which is hilarious because the lion was like spreadsheets and tax forms, but this was the definition of dysregulated. And people around me would be like, "Oh my God, that's so exciting! Like, congrats!" And I'd be fully mid breakdown, broke to the level of like, I'm on Amazon pricing out like how much is a backseat mattress and thinking, like, what the hell are you people talking about? I'm dying inside. This is fucking terrifying. And I remember this one time in particular, I shot back, "Oh yeah, I'm thrilled." Like, dripping sarcasm, full eye roll, no subtlety. And then it hit me, wait, actually, thrilled is the right word, because to say I wasn't afraid would have been a straight up lie. And I can't sell myself bullshit that I don't believe. But to say something is thrilling when I'm so scared shitless, that's actually technically true, because thrilling doesn't erase the fear, it folds the fear into excitement. And that's when I started leaning into thrilled as the biggest reframing tool in my EQ toolbox. So instead of trying to pretend I was confident or calm, I was neither. I let myself call it thrilling, which weirdly made it feel less like doom and more like that roller coaster drop feeling, like still terrifying, but also like electric and exciting. And I think that's really easy to forget that fear and excitement are basically the same signal in the body: fast heartbeat, butterflies, sweaty palms. The body doesn't care if it's because you're in love or you're about to give a TED talk or you're running from a bear. It's the same signal. We're the ones who get to decide what it means. And then there's this other piece: silver linings. And I'm not talking about like, toxic positivity, like just be grateful, where you gaslight yourself into ignoring real pain. I'm talking about the practice of hunting for something, anything that you can hold on to, even if it's ridiculous. Because two things can be true. And just because 99% of something is unbearable doesn't mean that you aren't capable of finding something in there to be grateful for. So, case in point, I was on this long solo car ride and I had to pee so bad. I remember I just got this hybrid and I was like, I can drive from Kentucky to Chicago without stopping because, like, I don't need to get gas. But, like, I was about to pee my pants. Like, I was literally about to cry. And at the time, I was doing this thing where I was trying to find gratitude in literally everything, like no matter what it was, which sounds very spiritual and noble until you're about to piss your pants on the highway. And I actually did it. I mean, I found something to be grateful for. I landed on, wow, the system in my body, like whatever it is, the connection between my brain and my hearts that that says like, hey bitch, your bladder's full, time to go, that is working. That connection is alive and well. Nothing to worry about there. A plus nervous system, gold star for internal plumbing. And that's something most of us take for granted. And I swear that moment is still top 5 proudest achievements of my life. Because if I can find gratitude there, like in the middle of bladder agony with no comfortable end in sight, I can probably find it anywhere. And the point isn't that the suffering goes away. I still peed myself, but the power is in finding even a tiny silver lining, even if the lining is like, yay, my body's working. And I know that the first thing contrarians like myself will say is like, what is there to be grateful for in the really hard stuff, like losing a loved one, for instance? And all I can say to that is like, it's okay to be grateful that you can relate to other people who have gone through hard things. It doesn't have to mean that you're glad any of it happened. And it also doesn't always have to be some life or death suffering moment. Reframing works just as well on everyday annoyances. Like, okay, you burned dinner. Instead of like, oh, I suck at cooking, I'm trash, you can tell yourself, I learned something new today. That's a mistake I'll never make again. That's something I love to say. Oh, that's a mistake I'll never make again. Yeah, okay. There's value in that. So okay, you're stuck in traffic? Time for a podcast, time for a little dance session, whatever it is, right? Or okay, so you have an awkward conversation that you're not, excited about. Great opportunity to practice authenticity. Like it doesn't have to be deep to be useful. And as some rando white guy named Thomas Edison said, I have not failed. I have just discovered 1,000 ways that don't work. And that's the kind of attitude that invents a light bulb.
So, just a little reality check. Edison didn't single handedly invent the light bulb. It's really a classic example of how a white guy ended up as the face of an invention that many people, including folks like Lewis Latimer and Joseph Swan, actually helped shape. Edison just had the visibility and marketing muscle.
So the farmer has maybe, I have thrilling, and maybe you have your own version of that. The point isn't which word you use, it's that the word holds space for complexity. It doesn't gaslight you into pretending that everything is fine, but it also doesn't trap you in despair. The English language is rich with nuanced meanings, and leaning into that has made a huge difference for me when it comes to this. And now, if you're not pedantic like me, it may not be as pleasurable, but it's good for you either way. Because reframing isn't only about positivity, it's also about honesty. It's about making space for a little relief. And sometimes that looks like optimism. Sometimes it's just, wow, at least my bladder sensor is working. And sometimes the best reframe isn't fancy at all. It's just laughing at the absurdity because practically nothing is that serious. I'm going to say that again. Practically nothing is that serious. And I'm so sad that it took me so long to learn that. So next time you're in one of those moments that feels unbearable, maybe it's a business risk, maybe it's a heartbreak, maybe it's just sitting in traffic with a full bladder, try reframing, not to erase the pain, but to hold it differently, because sometimes that's all you can control. Ask yourself, is this thrilling? Is there a silver lining? Could it just be a maybe for now? How is this working out for me? Because the more you look for yellow cars, the more you see yellow cars. And the same is true if you're looking for evidence that things are unfolding in your favor. So, anyway, before I go, I just want to prepare you for the fact that the next episode is going to be just a little different than what I've been doing. I still have a lot to say about the changes that I made. There's still way more to talk about when it comes to that, but that all led to squashing my anxiety. But I feel like at this point, I need to build some credibility. Like, I know I told you generally I was a hot mess, in the first episode, but I can just imagine myself from 2018 watching these videos, just thinking like, yeah, right, this put together bitch knows what I'm going through. But I promise I have hella receipts. So I think I just need to share a little more about the massive degree to which I was a hot mess from ages 3 to 33. And it's going to need like 45 content warnings. So if you need to skip the whole thing, I absolutely get it. But if not, stay tuned for that lore. Okay, thanks. Bye. I let myself call it thrilling, which weirdly, I let myself call it thrilling, which real, I let myself call it thrilling, which weirdly made it feel. Okay.